Hello everyone, I wanted to use this video today to talk about the concept of strategy, which is a higher order personal, financial, business, career concept. It's also significant to writing. When you think about, say, what are we doing in many of my classes here, we're orienting ourselves and preparing ourselves toward particular careers and learning how to do the type of writing that takes place out in the world in professional organizations and business. So this is a significant concept to bring in here, and it's also an incredibly timely concept given that strategy is often a reaction to broader market forces, and we're living through a period of significant global economic, social, even political shifts. So this concept of strategy we cannot take too lightly. So here's a video about, say, strategy in careers, life, and business. So a definition first then of what do we mean by strategy. Broadly and, say, colloquially, generally, strategy refers to the use of a plan or the cultivation, the creation of a plan to achieve a goal. Strategy is the creation of a plan to achieve a goal. Sounds very simple, right? But it also manifests as a type of critical and analytical thinking. So how do we get there then? You want to do something, you want to find yourself in a particular career, you want to help your business make a certain number of sales, you have to create a plan to achieve that goal. And this is what organizations and individuals are constantly doing. They're attempting to set themselves up in such a way that they hit certain markers, meet certain milestones, and achieve benchmarks, certain metrics, sales goals, expansion goals, capital investment goals, so on and so on. So how do you get there? You use analysis, you use research, you look toward best practices, you look toward competing models. And this applies again in all of these domains that I'm discussing here. For example, if you want to, say, become a technical writer, seek out resumes of technical writers. Seek out their bios. What types of software do they know? What do they use? Look at job descriptions. I talk about this sort of thing all the time, but this is true in any career field. If you want to get into the medical profession, what does someone do who is a neurosurgeon? What is the pathway towards getting the credentials needed to be able to do that? So therein is your strategy for setting yourself up in a career. And I'm speaking very broadly here, but okay, we'll keep moving here. So again, to reiterate this point, strategy is not a business buzzword. It's something we need to take quite seriously to orient ourselves effectively in the world and base our strategies on solid evidence, on solid data, on what we can gather from the world, from learning about particular careers, from competitors, from business. I'm going to grab here from, and I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video, Michael Porter's 5 components of strategy, which are referenced in this nice article from Harvard Business Review. For Porter, there are 5 components of strategy. And we'll play around with these a little bit. They're not perfect, but Michael Porter's 5 components of strategy. Seeking a single ideal competitive position in an industry. Seeking a single ideal competitive position in an industry. And this makes sense, right? How do you position a company or organization in such a way that you have a strong hold of a particular market, that you offer something unique to the world and you lock down your position there? Okay. The second of Michael Porter's 5 components, benchmarking and adopting best practices. And this is one of those that works well both your personal perspective, using best practices in your daily work, and also makes quite a bit of sense applied more broadly to an organization or business that should be using best practices. What are best practices? They're the widely adopted manners through which tasks are accomplished. Best practices are, say, what an industry has determined to be the most effective and useful manner of approaching a problem. A best practice, though, is sometimes just the best we have. There's always room for improvement, and these are the kind of gradual improvements that businesses make. Okay, the third of Michael Porter's concepts, or key components of strategy rather, is the aggressive outsourcing and partnering to improve efficiencies. And you do see businesses doing this more and more, but we're also seeing the fallback of this largely. But from a personal perspective, what is interesting here is, yes, there is quite a bit that you could say automate in your daily life and make more efficient. So we might just say this third component of strategy, if you're thinking about it more for your personal or career goals, is how can you be efficient, right? How can you say speed up the rate at which you complete job applications, and how can you use templates effectively, and these sorts of things. Okay, the fourth of Michael Porter's 5 components of strategy is focusing on a few key success factors, critical resources, and core competencies. And this is useful, again, both at the broad and the personal level. What is it that you do particularly well? What is it that you offer a business or a company, and how do you kind of package that in a particular way? This is important to kind of spell out what are your strengths, what is it that makes you successful in the world thus far, what is it that you have core competency in. Okay, and then this final factor for Michael Porter is the rapidly responding to ever evolving competition and market changes. And I said, like earlier, such as a global pandemic, which completely revolutionizes markets, or completely upends them, we might say more accurately. So how? We already see this happening. I've noticed already. For example, I keep a close eye on the local and regional real estate market out of interest. What do I see happening already? Real estate agents are providing 360-degree photography of homes that are listed on the market, so you can take a virtual tour. This was already an option. Often for higher end homes, in the higher end price ranges, you might be able to see a virtual tour of the property. Now it's becoming much more widespread. And you're going to see these kinds of, this is just one concrete, simple example of how a single industry locally has adapted to a global pandemic, right? There's millions and millions of examples of how industries and individuals have adapted already to the particular conditions of what's happening. But this is significant. What else do we see, and what do we learn from this? Teachers are learning how to use Zoom and these kinds of collaboration technology more efficiently. Some of us not as well as others. We're all learning together, right? But quite literally, millions of people, tens of millions of people, are now using video technologies for education. So those of you that are going into education, it may pay to become competent using technologies like Zoom, Collaborate, the learning management systems, getting good at using webcams and setting up your framing and all these sorts of things. Again, just minor examples of like, what do we strategically do in light of shifting and changing in the world? Okay. That's about it here. I'm going to wrap this up now with a little bit of review then, which is that the concept of strategy is a high-order, high-level concept that is significant in the professional world, but it's also significant in your personal, financial, career life. And that is to identify significant goals for yourself and then work out the pathway and the map through which you are going to achieve that particular goal or those sets of goals. Strategy is not just a simple business buzzword. It's a meaningful concept that can help alter the direction and outcome of your life. Strategy in the world of business, we looked at Michael Porter's 5 components, seeking an ideal competitive position, and we also discussed here how these 5 components of strategy are useful from a personal perspective as well. But to review Porter's 5 components, seeking a competitive position in an industry or marketplace, what makes you competitive? Benchmarking and adopting best practices, so how can you align yourself with what people in an industry are doing? If thinking about efficiency, maybe less of the outsourcing, but more of the improvement of efficiency, maybe some automation, focusing on your key success factors, your core competencies, and rapidly responding to the ever-evolving competitive and market changes. So I think that this is a very useful concept for all students, all humans even, especially because we live in this almost gamified global capitalism in which you have to figure out how to succeed in competitive markets. The way to do that, I think, is through strategy. And strategy is the creation of a plan to achieve a goal, and it should always be based on good data and good research. It should always be based on good data and good research. So that means if you're working for a business or an organization and you're creating a proposal for a new marketing plan, you're going to benchmark it off of available data that you have from your organization. You're going to benchmark it off of data that you have from the industry. You're going to use data to drive decision making. And in your personal life as well, use data to drive decision making. If you know that if you are interested in a particular career, but the outlook for job growth from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is incredibly low, maybe you need to recalibrate that strategy into a different career. Or you look at salaries by geographic area, so on and so on. Calibrate your strategy with good data. Plan your strategy with good data. Okay, that is enough for now, a kind of broader, higher level concept review, which is strategy in the professional world, strategy in your life. I hope this was useful for you. Take care of yourselves. We'll keep plugging along. Good luck, everyone.